welcome back to another TNC Sportscast. Today we're going to be doing starts, sits, and a new edition, risks. We're going to be doing 7 per category. Make sure to like, subscribe, go follow our TikTok, TNC Sportscast. We'll be posting on that a lot more. And make sure to comment down below. Give us new ideas for videos that we can do. We'll reply to you, we'll comment, and let's get into it.
All right, our first start, Aaron Jones revenge game. Sad to see him go last offseason. I love Josh Jacobs, but I loved Aaron Jones. He looks horrible in purple, but I still love him. I really think he might go off. I think he might be giving some payback. We did kind of screw him over, signing Josh and then just cutting him. But Green Bay, they did hold Tony Pollard pretty good last week, but it's Aaron Jones. He's a really good running back, and I think he definitely wants to give some payback, so he's a start.
One of my favorite starts for this week, tight end Jake Ferguson, coming off an injury last week. He had 15.5 points with 11 targets. He's looking like Dak's favorite target again. So I think he's going to have a really big week against a decent Giants defense. I think they're right in the middle for allowing points for tight end. He's had the most red zone targets last year for a reason. He's a stud. I think he has a touchdown call on his name. So I think he's going to have a big week this week.
All right. If my sources are telling me correct, I think he's playing this week. I love Malik Willis, but please play, because I'm telling you, if he does, you got to have Jayden Reed in your starting lineups. He went off week 1 with Jordan Love, 33 fantasy points. Been kind of mid, 6 and 10 the last 2 weeks, but he is Jordan's favorite target. Him and Watson are both pretty decent, but Jayden Reed is getting all of the, he's getting, rushing work, and that's huge. So that combined with screens, combined with if Jordan Love's back, he's going to be airing the ball out to Jayden Reed. Got to have Jayden Reed starting. If Jordan comes back, if Jordan's not, it's a risky start, but definitely if Jordan does play, Jayden Reed's a start.
All right, for another start, we have a quarterback, Jayden Daniels. If you're not starting him, I think you're pretty dumb. But, he's going crazy. He finally had his first passing touchdown and his second passing touchdown last week. He had 28 points last week, and he's going against Arizona defense, which is allowing, I think, the 9th most points to quarterbacks so far this year. I think he has a really good matchup, and I think he's going to keep balling out.
All right, another running back you must go start this week, Brian Robinson. Austin Eckler is most likely not going to play with a concussion that he got on the Monday night game against the Bengals. Brian Robinson gets the receiving work, he gets the goal line work, he gets all the rushing work. He's going to basically have the whole backfield to himself. Thank the Lord that Cooper traded him to me this week, because I had Pacheco and I needed a running back, and I like this matchup against the Arizona Cardinals. I think he's going to have a really good week, and especially with him being the only one back there, he's going to have a really good week, and you got to go start him.
All right, another start. We have Cole Kmet, the tight end 2 last week with 25.7 points. I think he's going to play really good next week. I think they're going to keep using him. They saw that he's a stud and he will move the ball. He almost had 100 yards last week, but he's playing against the Rams defense, who are dealing with a lot of injuries and allowing the 4th most points to tight ends. I think he's going to have another big week.
All right, our last start for this week, we have Andy Dalton. Absolutely balled. Bryce Young was the issue on the Carolina Panthers. He had 25 fantasy points, I believe, 24.5. But yeah, he's balled. 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 26 for 37. He's going against Cincinnati, and we saw what Jayden Daniels just did to that defense. I think Andy Dalton's going to absolutely ball, and definitely start Deontay Johnson as well if you have him, because they have a really good connection already. And yeah, definitely a good start for this week.
All right, moving on to the sits. The first guy I got here is Javonte Williams. He's the definition of the most mid running back in the NFL at the moment. He's only on the field half of the time. He's 52% on the field. He's only getting 7 carries a game, which is horrible. He went 5 for 12 last game. That is just horrible. 4 receptions and 5 receptions is the only reason why he's getting a couple points. Jaleel McLaughlin, I feel like, is just slowly taking over this backfield. I don't know why they're splitting, but he's definitely a sit this week.
All right, the next sit that we have for this week is Michael Pittman. Don't even get me started. I told people not to draft him. Anthony Richardson looks like absolute crap. I'm personally going to bench him this week. We'll get to him a little bit later on. But Michael Pittman is not benefiting from Anthony Richardson at all. 7.57. That's his points in the last 3 weeks. 7.57. That is absolutely terrible for a receiver that probably went in the 3rd to 4th round. But he's playing 89, 86, 84% of the snaps, but he's not getting the ball. I mean, he's not catching the ball. It's bad balls. Hasn't even scored a touchdown this year. So, yeah, just from all that, he's a sit this week.
All right, another sit we got is a guy that's everybody's been hot on recently, and he's been really hot this start of the season. J.K. Dobbins. He's playing a really tough Chiefs defense that are allowing the 3rd worst points to a running backs, and he's still technically splitting reps with Gus Edwards. The only reason why he would have good points this week is if he gets a touchdown, but I feel like he's going to have a tough week against the Chiefs defense.
All right, another receiver you got to sit this week, Jalen Waddle. I mean, he's a really good receiver. Good week 1, 16 points, but since then 8 and 6, mainly because Tua is out. He has another concussion, if you didn't know. But Skylar Thompson isn't the best quarterback. He's not going to be slinging the ball to Jalen Waddle. They're playing the Tennessee Titans, which, yes, is not the best defense against the pass. But like I said, I would not trust Skylar Thompson throwing the ball to Jalen Waddle. And for those reasons, you definitely got to sit him this week.
All right, another sit we got is Allen Lazard playing against the Denver Broncos. I mean, he had a really good week last week against New England, having a touchdown and 13 fantasy points. The Denver Broncos are actually a really good defense so far. They're allowing the least amount of points per game for wide receivers, which is astounding to me. I mean, they have PS2 that's locking wide receivers up. Mike Evans last week only had 3 points, so I think this is going to be a dud week for Allen Lazard.
Alrighty, so another receiver you got to sit this week, DeAndre Hopkins. Had a really good game last week against the Packers, had 19 fantasy points, did get a touchdown. But the first 2 weeks he had a combined 2 points, 1 and 1. So I until we see more production from him, I wouldn't trust it. I think it was just a really good week. But it's Will Levis. I mean, you can trust him if you want to, but he's not the best quarterback. He's been throwing interceptions. And I just feel like DeAndre Hopkins is too much of a risky pick. I wouldn't even put him in the risk category. I just put him in a sit until he proves himself.
All right, for our last sit here, we got Raheem Mostert. I think he's just getting old. This injury is just looming there, and he's just, I don't know if he'll be back to his old self. And when he was playing in week 1, he had 6 carries for 9 yards, averaging 1.5 yards a carry, which is not good at all. I think Devon Achane has fully taken over this backfield, and even Jalen Wright, the rookie, is looking way better, way faster, and he's way younger than him. So I think Raheem Mostert, if he plays, is a sit.
All right, starting off with our risk picks for this week, we got Anthony Richardson. I said we were going to talk about him a little bit. You know, he has boomer bust potential, really. I mean, he came out week 1 against Houston, looked incredible, 27 fantasy points. Then the last 2 weeks, he's had 12 and 7. He's throwing very bad interceptions. I mean, he had 3 in week 2 and 2 last week. If you have to start him, go ahead and start him. But it's just such a, if he continues to play that he does, I might even put a guy like Sam Darnold or even Andy Dalton over him, because, I mean, if he continues to get under 10 points a game, it's not even worth it. So it's a risky pick, but it's up to you.
All right, coming in second for our risky picks, Nathaniel Jasper Tank Dell. I mean, he has been one of the worst picks, I feel like, right now as the season is 3 weeks in. He finally got above double digits last week. I mean, he's got 8, 2, 11. So I think he's really, Stephon Diggs has come in and just taken him out of the equation. Tank Dell is just getting destroyed because Stephon Diggs is taking those receptions, and Nico Collins is looking like one of the best wide receivers in the league. So I think Tank Dell from the rest of the year is going to be a risk.
All right, another risk pick, in my opinion. I have him in a couple leagues, but Rome Odunze. Caleb did look a lot better, but with his quarterback being Caleb, it's a risky pick. I mean, they're playing the Rams, who did give up Juwan Jennings 46 fantasy points last week. And that connection between Rome and Caleb is continuing to develop and getting better and better. So he did have 23 fantasy points last week, which is pretty good. But I mean, it's just a risky pick. You gotta just base it off of, do you believe that him and Caleb are gonna have a good week or not? So I'd say probably lean towards the start this week and like a flex. But it's just a risky pick.
All right, another risky pick. I don't really agree with this, but it's risky. It is. But Deontay Johnson, he came off of a huge week, 26.2 points, having over 100 yards, 14 targets, which is insane in my opinion. 8 receptions. But he's risky. I mean, he had 4 points, 3 points week 1 and week 2. Andy Dalton is the Jesus, I guess. I mean, he looked amazing. I think Deontay will keep doing good. If he gets this many targets, you have to be good. But he is a risk because he's so up and down. But if he keeps doing this, I think he'll be a start every week.
All right, a guy that single-handedly won me my league last week. Actually, 4 of my leagues, 2 of them against Cooper, by the way. But Jauan Jennings, he looked amazing. Breakout game for him. 46 fantasy points is amazing, incredible. But he had 11 and 5. Debo, I don't think Debo is playing. If he does play, I would not start Jauan. But if he is out, I would start Jauan. It's just risky because I don't think he's going to be as good as he was last week. But I still think he would have a good amount of targets with Christian Gonzalez most likely going over to Brandon Ayuk's side and guarding him. So definitely could be a start, especially if Debo is out. I'd put him at a flex. But if Debo's back in, I would not start Jauan. And it's just kind of a risky pick, especially also because Brock Purdy is questionable.
All right, another guy that kind of did good last week, but he is a risky pick. Christian Kirk. He had 15 points last week, but I think he's just going to be always a risk. Trevor Lawrence does not look good at all. I mean, that whole offense is just horrible. Like, Doug Peterson needs to figure it out right now or he's going to get fired. But Christian Kirk, I mean, he is a wide receiver 1, but Brian Thomas, man, he's looking good. He could easily take that spot. And Christian Kirk could just lose his role and not be as good as he used to be.
All right, so a running back that's kind of a risky pick was one of the top waiver wire pickups from last week. It didn't really do much. I mean, he had 8 points, but Carson's still on the Chiefs. I mean, that whole backfield just scares me. I mean, there's so many running backs that they bring in and out of the game, and yes, he's probably the main one, but it's just so risky, like I said, and they're playing the Chargers, which is a decent defense, but that whole backfield just, like I said, just scares me, and I don't really feel like starting any of them is good because any of them can break out in any single game. So I would lean more towards a sit, but he's just a risky pick. You could start him if you're in a deeper league.
All right, I decided to sneak this in because Tarek doesn't agree with me, but I think Derrick Henry is a risky pick this week. He's in 97% of leagues. Of course, you're going to start him. I mean, but I think it's a risky pick. He could have a really bad game this week. Because you see it when they're down, they don't use him. They've used Justice Hill in the passing when they need to pass the ball when they're down. I mean, that's why they only had 10 points against Kansas City because they were down and they had to pass the ball a lot. And they're playing against the best team in the NFL right now, Josh Allen, the MVP front runner, in my opinion. I bet he is right now. But, I mean, they're going to be down in this league, or this game. I think the Bills are better right now in this moment. So I think they're going to be down. They're going to have passing a lot. So I think Derrick Henry is going to be a risky pick for me. But boys, if you like the video, go down there. Make sure to like it. Give us a subscribe. Go to our TikTok, TNC Sportcast. We'll be dropping a lot of new videos on there. Make sure to follow us. Like all those videos. Help us out. I mean, we need some help. We're growing. We're slowly getting there. Thanks for all the help, guys. And one more thing. Like always, see ya.